It's time for another Dice Tower review with Z. Garcia.
Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at a small card game called Take the A Chord. This one is a trick-taking game with a jazz theme. Players are going to be, we're assuming, sort of jamming out, trying to play the best cards at the best moment, trying to win just the right amount of tricks and come out on top after several rounds. The game is from the same publisher as Coffee Roaster, which I reviewed some time ago, and I really liked. I thought it was a fantastic, original game, and so I was very interested in this second release from the same company. Does it live up to the original, and how much I liked it? Let's find out. To set up the game, we're going to put the little board here in the center of the table. The little meeple we'll be using in just a second. This card that lets you know who's in the spotlight. It's worth one trick. And then we're going to deal out the cards in the game. The objective of the game is to get the most points over several rounds. And you are going to be getting those points by winning tricks in this trick-taking card game. Of course, if you don't know how trick-taking works, it's basically someone playing a card, leading a card, other players playing around the table until everyone has played once. Then you compare those cards according to the rules of the game, see who wins. They take those cards and score them typically, and then they themselves would play a new card and so on until everyone has usually exhausted their hand of cards. Again, that is the bare minimum there for trick-taking card games. And this is one of those. Now that everybody has their hand of cards, there are three cards that don't get dealt here. We're going to flip over the top one to decide what the starting chord is on this little wheel here. And we're going to put the little character on that letter. So B, in this case, is the strongest chord, and it's always clockwise. Their strength falls the farther clockwise you go. And so if B is the strongest thing, it is followed by C, D, E all the way around, and A would be the weakest. If later on E becomes the strongest, then E is the strongest, but followed by F, G, so on, and the D would be the weakest, okay? So it starts on B there, you pick a start player, and you are ready to begin. Let's move these out of the way so you can see everyone's card play. The cards themselves come in different colors, which are moods, because the game, of course, has a jazz theme. And so we have here, this one says lyrical and swingy and earthy, and soulful is yellow, and so on. And the start player is going to play a card. They can play pretty much anything they want to begin the round. Again, taking into account that the letter here represents the strength. And so let's say I'm going to lead with this card here. So I've played a C in lyrical, which is green. This player here has to follow suit. That means they have to play green if they have it. However, they're allowed to break that rule if they wish, and if they can, as long as they play a letter that's been played, a chord that's been played. And so, for example, this player here has a couple of C's. They have 3 C's, actually, that they could play if they wanted to, instead of this green. They cannot play anything else. So they either play this green, which is what they would have to do, or they cannot do that and play one of these 3. If they did not have these 3, they would have to play this one. If they did not have this one, and they had just these, they could play anything they wanted to. They do not have to play the same letter if they don't want to, okay? So let's say this player is just going to play the B, because it is the strongest thing right now. And this player would take a look at their hand, and they are going to play that D, let's say, and then the final player over here would take a look at their hand, and they will play the weakest card they have at the moment, which is that A. That's it. The player that wins, now that this is done, is whoever played the strongest chord, strongest letter. Colors right now at the resolution no longer would matter, and so this B would win it. This player would take all of these cards, put them in front of themselves aside somewhere. That is one trick they have won, and they would lead the next trick. You can use this little token here that comes with the game to decide as you're playing to figure out, okay, who's gonna, who's winning, who's gonna lead the next trick, and so on. So that's basically it. If that was all there was, that'd be a really simple game. So there's a couple of twists on top of that. The first twist is that the scoring in this game is very unique. The tricks you take correspond to a number of victory points, but the more is not necessarily the merrier. For example, in this game, a single trick, if you win just one when the whole game is over, that gets you 10 points. 20 for 2, 30 for 3. If you take 4 tricks, you only get 10 points. So you lose some points if you go past 3 tricks. And so on after that. So for example, if you win 7 tricks in this game, you are losing 20 points. So you only want to win a few. You want to win a certain amount, a very specific amount. And there's another thing that gives you points, which is improvisation, and I'll talk about that in just a second. Also, if you win a trick with the strong chord, the leading chord, which is the B right now, you would also get this card, Spotlight. It itself counts as one trick, unless you lose it, of course. And so this player would take these cards, put them aside, and take this, and they've right now won 2 tricks. Let's go back to this example and change it up a little bit. This player played the C. Let's say this player here played the B. That's fine. But then let's say this player here, let's see if they have the card I need them to have. Yes, they do. Let's say that they, instead of playing this A, they played a D, which they're allowed to do because it's been played already. They can play a card, a chord that's been played already. They play that. That does a key change. That triggers a key change. And the meaning of that is that whoever wins, wins. So it's still, the B is still the strongest ladder on the table. But then for the very next trick, this gets moved over to D. And from now on, the power of the cards has shifted. It's the same mostly in relation to each other, but the starting spot has shifted, of course. So that's the first thing that could you really make the strength of the cards vary throughout the game. And this can happen several times, okay? The other thing that can happen is if this player here plays the same card, and I'm going to need to steal one from another player, as the starting player, so they could play the same letter, I should say, as the starting player, that triggers improvisation. So if the last player plays the same note as the first player, we flip them all face down. And that was a C, so that would move to C. And this player now plays on top of this round. Nobody wins that trick. Whoever wins the second trick takes both. Or you could even do it again, and whoever takes the third trick wins all 3. And whoever wins that gets an improvisation bonus, which is 15 points. You get that 15 points once, not for every trick in that improv. Okay, so it's basically that. You keep playing tricks, moving the little meeple around to decide what's strong and what's weak. You try to manipulate this wheel to make your hand of cards strong when you want it to be strong, or once you have the number of tricks you want, weaker, so that the cards you play are unlikely to win, and hope that you come out ahead. Try to, be as tricky as you can to come out ahead. You play usually over 4 rounds, and then whoever has the highest score after 4 hands in the game will be the winner. And that is an overview of how you play Take the A chord. The first thing I'll reiterate here is that I think the component quality from this company is fantastic. I love the quality of the cards. I love the quality of the artwork, which is very reminiscent of the original release. It's just a great little package. It's the right size for the kind of game it is. Just love it. Love the way that they have constructed this game. The gameplay itself, I would say, definitely takes a little bit of warming up to, because it's a strange step in trick-taking. But what I really like about it, and this is the thing that a lot of trick-taking games miss, is that it adds something new. It adds creativity. It adds an interesting new twist to trick-taking without adding rules complexity. That's the thing that most trick-taking games do not do. Most trick-taking games that are new trick-taking games add rules to make it different, but then complexity on top of that. And so the scoring system will be all sorts of weird, or there'll be some bizarre bidding mechanism, or like you have to combine these cards to combine with this other card, and then you know, that's the thing. This game does not do that. The main twist here, which is the relative strength of cards, is very simple to grasp and is very clever. And it's driven by player choice of, you know, what you play when. And you can shift the strength of the cards to your advantage. I also think that it's really cool that you don't want to win as much as possible, which means you're getting a great hand of cards, which is all relative, of course. But getting, you know, what would be perceived as a really strong hand of cards is not good. You want to have half a strong hand, right? You want your hand to carry you for a while and then lose all the time, or vice versa, whatever. But you don't want to win everything. You definitely will lose if you take every trick, you know. And so I think that's very clever also. My main complaint here would be that the game is really just for 4 players. It's a game for 4. It has rules for 3 with a dummy player. And given, as far as dummy players go, this is pretty good. It's not intrusive, you know. You flip a card for them and it's sort of just, it stays out of the way, you know. There's not a lot of overhead. But it's still really a game for 4 players. Now, that's not that uncommon for trick-taking games, so I'm not going to make it a big deal, but it is there, so be aware of it. You really want 4 to play Take the A chord. If you have 4 players, though, and you are fans of trick-taking games, I would definitely recommend you check this one out. Beautiful theme, gorgeous artwork, clever concepts. It'll take a little bit to figure it all out, but once you do, you're going to be enjoying your playing. It's got a nice, easy, straightforward scoring. I really dig this one. I think it might be one of my favorite new trick-taking games, so definitely check it out. That is Take the A chord.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.